in this era of disruption, digital is a reality of our life. You got to read more.
I'm looking at community, enterprise and government agencies are getting involved in IoT and big data for the well-being of the people.
This COVID-19 actually make us start to realize that most important thing, the company have to be very resilient. So at any time, the disruption should not happen.
The telehealth services for them to be connected, for the patients to be connected to doctors, or Kementerian Kesihatan, for the doctors to then consult and offer a referral for the patient to perform a test if required.
If you're talking about trust, I think one of the key here would be how did you treat your people before MCO happened? So if you had that level of trust already with your team members, then it's easier for you to say, okay, now that I can't see you on a daily basis, how do we then operate?
These are the actual challenges of adopting cloud. It's not about the trust anymore. It's about our infrastructure, our connectivity. Are they stable and fast enough to support the business and also the consumers to continue to adopt more cloud services?
Talented individuals with in-demand skill in any sector now realize that they can live, they choose and work where they're qualified. And talent is the new global currency.
It's not the government that should write the syllabus. They should really hand it out to the industry to write the syllabus, make sure that the practical education, 75% is done in the workshop, only 25% theory, 25% needs to be done in school.
Hello and welcome back to Top in Tech, our first episode for the year. And today we're going to be discussing physical and mental health through technology, how technology is having an application in mental and physical health. As we know, these are all major issues, especially during COVID. And, we at Malaysiakini, DNA, and our partners, Kini Events and Club Malaysia, really find this a very, very important topic, how we can use technology to handle these health issues. So without further ado, I will pass on to our moderator, Karamjit Singh from DNA, who will take us through today's session. Over to you, Karamjit.
Very good. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. We are hoping to get some an interesting set of questions from all of you. Also, we've already had so many questions from those who pre-registered, and I tell you, the panelists really appreciated that. They've picked some of the questions to go through afterwards, and our idea is to go through as many questions as possible so that we get some of your pain points answered, some of your concerns. Some of you are seeking more information, and we absolutely hope to fulfill your expectations. And so nobody will be talking for long. All the panelists say we're going to keep our own introduction comments short, and we're going to go through with that. And I think we've got an interesting cross-section of panelists. We've got a startup founder, and we've got a big tyco, Eric Wong, who's with Prudential, one of the largest insurance companies, in the country. And they've got an amazing story to share with what they've done through Pulse. And then we've got a near legend in Malaysia in the clinical psychology space, which is Paul Jambunathan also. So it'll be interesting cross-section of conversations. And what we're going to do is we're going to just get everyone started with their opening remarks and what they think, and we're going to have Paul go first, after which Joan will come on, and then we'll have Eric come in, with their opening remarks, and then we'll go through with rapid fire questions, okay? And please keep your questions coming. So, and the idea is, I've told the panelists, as one panelist is talking, if somebody else has something they want to add or they disagree with, they will interrupt and say, hey, hold on, Joan, or hold on, Eric, or Paul, I want to add to that, or my experience is saying something different, okay? Keeping it interactive and dynamic. And with that, we will start first. So, Paul, can you start the show then?
Thank you. Thanks, Karam. Thank you, Malaysiakini and all the other sponsors and the teammates on the panel. I have a few slides to share with you, which is going to guide me along, and we've got a trusty assistant from Kini helping me. This is my opening slide, and I want to make one thing very clear at the start. A lot of people call me doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I've been called Dato, I've been called professor, and as Karam says, near legend. I take that to heart, Karam. Near legend. Anyway, I've also been called professor. Well, actually, I'm a Thun. If you spell it backwards, get it? Okay. This is my profession, a clinical psychologist. I run my own consultancy, and I work in that hospital, Region Rehab Hospital. Now, these are all big words, psychology and all this mumbo jumbo, techno jumbo and stuff. But basically, what I specialize in is the next slide, please.
Okay,
there.
Paul, before you go to the next slide, just looking at the visual here, it gives me the sense that you are eagerly awaiting the next, the second edition of Avatar movie, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. No, this
entirely
is my
filmed underwater, I think so.
This is my passion. I love to immerse myself in this liquid field of energy. I love scuba diving and nature very much.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to say I specialize in applied common sense, because common sense is nowadays a very rare commodity and people lose it very, very frequently. Next, please. This is my background. I'm not 37 years old, but 37 years of being in the profession and still counting. I work in a hospital and clinics. I'm a teacher of sorts. I'm a lecturer. I do a lot of training with the university, with BFM. I've got my show now with platforms like Malaysiakini. I run a lot of workshops and seminars. Now, my passion is in applied positive psychology, parenting, family dynamics, the word resilience, which is a buzzword now, but it's been around for a long, long time. And of course, I'd like to focus more on prevention than cure. Of course, cure and interventions are an important part of our business and professional background. But prevention, I think, is something that we need to work on, because my dream is to put psychologists and people like dentists out of business. If we do our own work, looking after our mental health and brushing our teeth every day, we don't need people like me around. You get the idea? So, if we can educate you well enough and you can practice it well enough, it put us out of business, man. Please do. I love nature very much. I see myself as a gardener, and I love that metaphor. And I'm an avid diver. I'm a dive master with a few thousand dives, and I really take people out for workshops and things. It's just brilliant, Karam. I think we'll run a workshop for Malaysiakini out on the islands one day. That'd be a brilliant thing.
Fantastic.
Next, please. The model I'd like you all to use when you understand or attempt to understand another human being is not their problem or their profession or their color, race, or creed. Try and understand them from a biopsychosocial point of view. Yes, their health matters. Health is a big thing, and we're going to have experts talk about it today. Their psychological background matters a big deal, and of course, how they interact with society. This is the 3-model definition of health by WHO. However, there's one large component that must come in necessarily, and that is, next please, your spirituality. Your spirituality is an important part, not necessarily religious issues or religiosity. Spirituality is understanding that you are existent with other energies in the world. You're not the end all and be all of everything. So please remember that. Now, all of this put into context, whenever we talk about human beings, whether mentally, health-wise, or in any perspective, we need to understand, next please, that all of this is in context of the human lifespan. Things change as we grow up, as we exist, as age comes along, as events in the world have an impact on us. So, we live together. We live together with people of different, representative of different lifespan issues, lifespan stages, different demands at different stages of the lifespan. So must put this in perspective. Okay, so when we talk about depression or the COVID, people at different stages of their lifespan experience things differently.
Sure.
Next, please. Yeah, very important, ma. I'm going to just present my passion and my peeves. Okay, my passion is prevention, positive psychology, and resilience. My peeves one peeve is the fact that there's not enough psychological education in the curriculum, in the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, across the board. That's a big peeve of mine. But a major peeve of mine is the next slide. There you go. That's a big peeve of mine. Now, that represents the fact that, please listen to this. It was published in the papers many, many years ago, and I still think it holds true. We spend more time on the toilet bowl. We spend more time in the bathroom every day in our lives rather than talking to the people who matter most.
Wow,
When
are you
relating-
serious?
when
That's
relating to-
astounding.
Really, Macha, I tell you, this is a serious issue, you know. You just look at your timetable, how much time you spend in the bathroom compared to the time you spend with the loved ones, with people who matter, with people in need. Terrible, I tell you. You just do that small audit every day, and you it's an amazing thing. Now, the next peeve is the fact that, next please, mental health in Malaysia is going down the toilet bowl as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
Not just the stats. And Karam, you and I know, a lot of people know that there are three kinds of lies in the world, you know. One is called lies. Then the next worst thing is bloody lies. And the third worst thing, the worst thing of all, is statistics. So I know as a practitioner that there are more people suffering from mental health issues. There's more ignorance that's surfacing around mental health issues. There's lesser policies, there's lesser structure to this. And it's such a sad thing because there are more psychologists in the country. And we're saying we need more psychiatrists. Why? Why do we need more? You know, at one stage I was like one of the first psychologists that got back to the country to work. We never needed these people around in the past. We never needed them in the Stone Ages. But why do we need so many now? No. It is a preventive issue, and we got to realize that. Next, please. The era of vaccination. So I want to leave you with a vaccine of my own. This vaccine is called, next, please. It's called Jambu's 5 senses. You know, we got 5 biological senses. Yep. Well, this is Jambu as in Jambunathan. So the 5 senses I want to share with you are, number 1, please, sense of spirituality. That's one sense that we must all have. Develop it, understand it. Next sense is, please, you've got to be responsible for what you do, the consequences that you initiate, responsible for yourselves and people around you. Next sense, please. Whatever you do, be real, be well-founded and grounded, you know. The next sense, please. You've got to learn to laugh. Laugh and laugh. And you've got to have a sense of humor. And of course, if you cannot laugh at yourself, you've got no right to laugh at anybody, okay? At anyone. Yeah, but you must have a sense of humor. And I see you can definitely see one missing. This is a very rare sense. Very rare sense, cannot be bought anywhere. You can't buy it off the shelf, you know. People can't sell it to you either. It's called this, please. Common sense. You've got to have that sense too. So this is my vaccination, and hopefully this will help you prevent a lot of issues happening if you develop this. Next, please.
Interesting.
I'm saying goodbye for now. This is me in my fun attire. And my last word for you is, you know how we talk about sanitizing and keeping clean? Yeah. Well, my word is sane. Keep sane. Sanitize. Okay. That's all, Karam. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, I think poor Joan now is feeling immense pressure after your dynamic and slightly frivolous opening remarks. Joan is thinking, what do I do to top that now? Joan, we did not mean to put you under pressure like that, but we will get Joan on now to share her quick perspectives. John, no pressure. You don't have to live up to Paul. He's a bit crazy, so not to worry, okay? And by the way, before I start, I should just...
you and write your tune, so don't worry.
Just for everyone to know, so Joan actually was a former banker. She's got an Ivy League education, one of the top universities in the world. She is a former banker who apparently managed a portfolio of over $1 billion in assets. She was not happy, was not fulfilled, which is why she formed ThoughtFull. So, Joan, the floor is yours. Or sorry, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Karam. Paul, you really made it difficult for us and everyone else. Eric, good luck to you. But yeah, thanks so much, Karam, and thanks, Malaysiakini, for having all of us here today and all the sponsors, organizers for the event. As Karam mentioned, my name is Joan Low, and I'm the founder and CEO of ThoughtFull. So I'm actually currently based in Singapore, but my heart is very much in Malaysia. Yes, I actually grew up in Malaysia, but have spent the last 15 years kind of living abroad between North America, Europe, and then North Asia. So as Karam mentioned as well, before founding ThoughtFull, I was actually a banker in Hong Kong, managing a portfolio of $1.3 billion US. And I think, I was there for 6 years, and what really inspired me to start ThoughtFull is the fact that we've actually been mental health caregivers for the last 20 years to a loved one. And as you imagine, 20 years ago, no one spoke about mental health. It was practically, unknown, right? No one knew what it was. And so I think having had the privilege to see how mental health is approached in all these different places that I had the blessings to be to live in, and see the advancements that were happening in places like the US and how Canada approaches it, France, wherever it was. I think what was very evident and very heartbreaking for me was the fact that there was a very big gap between a lot of advancements that are happening and can still happen and where we were. And so really that was what made me decide to pursue something a bit more meaningful, reading my soul after being on Wall Street and then start ThoughtFull. So what's ThoughtFull? It's a digital mental health company, and our vision is really to make mental health care seamless, accessible, and also affordable in Asia. So we do partner with corporates and insurers and also healthcare providers to offer proactive and coordinated, end-to-end mental health care to users. So our main offering is ThoughtFull Chat. And really it empowers employees and users to engage with their mental health earlier rather than later. So we focus on upstream prevention rather than, crisis management. And we empower them to do that through self-serve tools, whether it's through content and all of that, and also through daily bite-sized coaching with certified mental health professionals. So our algorithms actually help people find the best fit coach for them. And they can text anytime, anywhere. And the professionals check in daily, Monday to Friday, except public holidays, of course.
Really? Come on. Mental health doesn't take a break. Well, you should be on 24/7.
Yes, but we must also take care of the mental health of our professionals.
Oh, okay.
So mental health at the
fun.
Workplace. Yes, mental health at the workplace applies to everybody. So I mean, it's discreet, it's cost efficient, and it's also measurable. But I mean, I think I can explain as much as we want, and I think I want to save time for the discourse and the conversations later. So I'll just let Malaysiakini kind of run the video that we do have, and then we can continue the powwow.
Get Eric in. Okay, sure. Let's watch the video.
Yeah, looking forward, guys.
Thanks, Joan.
Finding it hard to focus, easily distressed, having sleep troubles? Don't worry, you are not alone. 1 in 4 people go through a mental health challenge at some point in their life. Getting the right support so that you can be the best version of yourself doesn't have to be hard, expensive, or complicated. It can be as easy as having a thoughtful chat. Everyone has different needs, so get connected with your best fit mental health coach instantly. All our certified mental health coaches are fully vetted and trained to ensure you receive the best support. Privately text or send a voice message to your coach, who will provide you with daily bite-sized coaching asynchronously from Monday to Friday. Finding it hard to stick to your goals? We got you. Set your intentions on the app and we'll journey with you. With bite-sized lessons and tools, our users can't stop, won't stop learning. It's not just self-care tips, it's science-backed. You probably know your height and weight, but do you know where your stress, anxiety, and depression levels are at any one time? The more you know, the more you grow. With ThoughtFull Chat, you can now engage with your mental health anytime, anywhere, all from the convenience of your phone. Focus, calm, and healthy. Invest in yourself and have a thoughtful chat.
Cool. Very well put together video. Very interesting. Thanks, Joan.
I cannot take credit for it.
Of course, yeah. All CEOs have got surround themselves with smarter people if they're smart. Yeah. Okay. All right. With that, Joan, let's bring on Eric and let's get his opening remarks.
Hello, everyone. Hi. I just want to thank Malaysiakini, thank Karam, the moderator, for today, as well as all the other colleagues working on today's session. So a little bit about myself before I move into the work that I'm passionate about. I'm Malaysian, so I'm speaking to you from Kuala Lumpur. So this is not a video coming off Europe or somewhere. Right?
Yeah.
I did have a chance to work in Hong Kong, just like Joan.
Oh,
so I had some experience working abroad that actually shaped a little bit of my thinking and my professional career as well. But today, really, what I want to talk about is the work that Prudential does, right? And I think it's really much bigger than what people think. Because often when you talk about insurance company, then you think about the product, the services that we sell.
Absolutely.
But actually, about a year and a half ago, we really did a lot of work at Prudential, looking at the big why, the purpose of the company. And this is where we discover what is the role of Prudential, right? And in the context of sort of contributing to society, contributing to the world at large. And really, we came out with this sort of motto, if you like, or mantra, if you like. And that's really helping people get the most out of life. And that's kind of like really what we want to achieve, right? If you like the ambition. But how do we do that, right? And we do that by really providing or securing health, well-being, and actually wealth by providing accessible healthcare, right? And one of our thinking is that everyone deserves to have, if you like, information about health, access to healthcare, and hopefully that becomes affordable and accessible. And that's what we stand for. And for that reason, we've actually developed an app called Pulse by Prudential. It spells P-U-L-S-E. And that's what I'm really passionate about. I want to talk about that. It's really an AI-powered, all-in-one health app. You'll see the video afterwards. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to pack it with various components that will help people get healthier and wealthier, as health is the ultimate wealth, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the whole concept. And therefore, just to give you some snippet about what's available, we are trying to mimic the physical way of doing health check or health assessment, often only available for the lucky ones, like some of us who work in corporations where we get, the company kind of pay for our health assessment. We're now bringing it into the app, and we're allowing people to access that for free. And this is not just Prudential customer; it's for all Malaysians, right? So I encourage you to go in. Obviously, this is not your 3-hour health assessment like you do in Pantai or Gleneagles, but it's really a quick assessment that will allow you to learn more about your own health and your body, right? And we have an area where we also have people checking on certain symptoms that they may be experiencing, but it may be just a little bit early to go to a doctor. So what we're talking about is perhaps I get rashes that come and go. I don't know what it is, why it's happening to me. So we're providing resources to check that. Right now, you might say, "Hey, I can go to Google and check all of this." Right?
True.
Where our proposition really is that it is housed in one place, so all in one. Right? Powered by AI, we're learning. So as you go along and do your checks, we're able to kind of tell what are the most common questions that people are asking. So the app becomes more clever in kind of delivering content, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally see that.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of content in the app itself. So for those of you who really want to read up about trends, about conditions within your own body or a loved one, plenty of resources there for you to do that. And the articles or the content is being updated
regularly.
Regularly, so that you can actually go in and regularly to kind of get the feed of content as well. And so therefore, we see our role as kind of providing that and really helping Malaysians to get healthier, right? And so if you like, it's a little bit beyond insurance. It's linked to insurance, but it's actually going beyond that. And that's what we're passionate about. We're really very keen on helping Malaysians at large. And that's the kind of work that we do. That's largely going to be what I'll be talking about today. And I just leave it at that, Karam, because I know you've got plenty of questions to fire at us.
No, it's the audience has plenty of questions. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what we'll do now, we will jump into the questions right away.
I think we might have a video.
Is that going to be running now? You're going to run that now? Go ahead. Yeah. Let's run the video. Ken.
Pulse by Prudential now with upgraded look. Packed with features to help you do health better. Health Check lets you discover your holistic health. Digital Twin reveals personalized insights and health report. now with better risk identifiers for diabetes and prostate cancer. Our AI-powered symptom checker helps you understand symptoms with a quick check. New Fitness Tracker helps track sleep, heart rate, activities with daily tracking and weekly summary. Now available to sync with Apple Health, Google Fit, Fitbit, and Garmin. Stay healthy and get protected with health challenges. Step Up Against Cancer helps you earn up to 12,500 ringgit free coverage. My Health Content delivers the latest health and lifestyle content with inspiring videos and more. Newly launched, My Wealth Channel equips you with financial tips and investment hacks. And now, with My Communities, everyone can share, inspire, and grow healthier together. Pru Iman for Muslims offers daily doa, zakat, faraid calculators, and more. For parents, My Family Vaccination Calendar helps track your children's vaccination appointments according to their age and stage, so you will never miss another vaccination. What's more, subscribe to Pulse Plus for My Meal Planner and My Food Journal to help you hit body and health goals. By planning, tracking, and calculating your nutrition intake, and join healthy eating challenges to boost better eating habits. Expect to level up your wellness with more premium features and rewards to come. That's not all. Coming soon, the first of its kind, Pulse Wallet lets you make in-app purchases, premium payments, and transactions easier than ever. Put health in your hands with Pulse and watch your life transform for healthier and better.
Cool. Okay. Very upbeat music there. Okay, had me tapping my feet. Okay, what we'll do is we'll just jump into the questions right away. So I had one question which was for all of you, right? Before we take some of the questions from the audience that was already pre-sent, and the question is simply like, look, it's February, right? We are really 1 year into this new normal. Some say never normal. Right. So, Paul, I'll start with you. Right. So, what has been the starkest change for you in what you have been doing over the past 12 months versus before?
Personally, the biggest challenge is getting to use tech in my everyday life. I've been using the laptop and all the WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff. The usual laptop usage. I've never had to learn to use Zoom. I never even knew what it was till the lockdown and MCOs, and so many other features of interacting with people and with communities using technology. So for me, the biggest thing was to learn something new, even at this age, and to make it work as efficiently as everyone else who is tech savvy are using it. So that was a very big challenge for me. And today is testament to the fact that it's such a necessity. And you're right, Karam. I think the word new norm is such an old phrase already. I think norm is like any statistical curve. It will keep on shifting as we move along, and the norm will be what society determines and how we all determine it. So there's no such thing as the new norm. It has never been an old and new norm. So it's how we all just work together. In terms of how this has affected my profession and mental health, the starkest reality is that because of the shutdown, what has presented most to us is how people are learning to live with themselves. I think they've taken a lot for granted. A lot of people have, after the shutdown, have learned to get back to basics. The frivolity of life and all the external wants have fallen secondary to the primary issue of the needs that we have. We all have primary needs. Now we know what we need. In fact, all of us always had it. We've taken it for granted. We've taken ourselves for granted. We've not really dwelt on ourselves, self-awareness, coping, living with yourself. And that's been the starkest reality, in my opinion, for a lot of people during shutdown. They've met themselves for the first time. Wow. That's been a very important challenge. That has flowed over into interpersonal relationships, working from home, and everything else. So that's my 2 bits worth.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. They've met themselves, and hopefully most of us have liked the person we have met. We've been forced to meet. But okay. Joan, how about you then with this question? What are your thoughts here?
I think the last 12 months have really been a blitz, time has really flown. It's really been quite a boon for digital healthcare, as you can imagine. So I guess it couldn't be more 180 or different from what you just said, Paul, because we've always been digital first. So even how the team works and everything, So that part didn't change as much. It really is more the speed at which we had to move. So for example, ThoughtFull Chat, we were supposed to launch later part of 2020 after our pilot in 2019. But the moment, the pandemic hit, lockdown started coming in, really demand on both user and professional side really surged because, for example, you have counselors who all of a sudden can't see their clients anymore, right? And so and so they still need to make a living, and so that was something that was a very big push factor. And I think for us as well, all of a sudden corporates realized that they need to take care of their people. Their people are going through a tremendous stress. So then a lot of demand came in on the corporate side as well. So we actually signed on our first corporate client even before the app was live. Which really gave testament to really not just the work that was done before, but really the acute need of what is the circumstance as it is now. So 12 months ago, I mean, our team was 6 times smaller than it is today.
Wow, 6 times growth. Wow.
So it was it's been quite a whirlwind. I wish I could go back and see, family and everything. So I think that's probably on the personal side, something I hope that will come back to so-called normal. But really, this whole idea of new normal and things like that, I couldn't agree with Paul more. I think that terminology perhaps is a little bit erroneous because number one, there was nothing normal about this circumstance. And number two, I think really our present moment is what it is now, right? That's what our circumstance is. And so it's really about how we perceive it, how we adapt to it, and then how we act accordingly. So I think that's a lot of the work that we've been doing with the people.
Sounds good. Okay. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, so what do I make of the question? Really, I think three areas. One is customer. The way we serve customer has become different. Simple stuff like during the pandemic, right? Some of our branches are closed. Some customers are coming to just, how can you be helpful? Communicate, right? The branches are open, they're not. Maybe in particular areas, I remember Klang being closed for a while because of the acute number of cases over in that area. How do you respond to that, right? You can't do things which you normally do before the pandemic. You got to be helpful. So the way you communicate, the way you put together communication plans can differ, right? And customers want to be served still. Now we need to help customers pivot to, for example, digital channels when they want to make payments, because one of the things that customer want to do is to make payments, change address maybe. How do I do that, right? Yeah, simple things. The second one is my interaction with my team members have changed dramatically, right? How do you connect emotionally now that everyone is sort of looking at the screen, me included, right? We're not meeting physically, we're distancing ourselves. And actually a number of people are not really in the office, right? Particularly in the role like my own department, which is marketing, right? How do you connect? And do you connect on a more emotional level? Maybe you don't. It's all work stuff, right? How do you know if someone is all right? Now, when you see them physically, you might be able to tell from body language. You might be able to tell from whether they're smiling or not. In an environment where you're actually dealing with them, sometimes not on camera, you can't tell. How do you respond to that, right? How do you even do an event like a Christmas party in an environment like this, right? And so those are changes that we have to make, and we have to find new ways. So quizzes, we get people to turn on the camera, give them a little bit of incentive to do that. You check on them. Yeah, so checking in on the team members, asking people if they're all right, listening to their voices, and hopefully be able to tell if they're in a great mental state. Those are things that they change for me personally. The third one, if there's any silver lining with the pandemic, I have to say that I spent much more time with my family members, my wife and my children. We're all kind of working from home, and actually I'll schedule a little bit, right? Like I now can maybe do walks around 7 p.m. together with my wife, which I would otherwise wouldn't have done before the pandemic.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I probably will be in the office. So those things change, and our schedule change as well. And we got to watch our diet as well during this period, because you're at home, your accessibility to snacks, junk food, I would argue would be easier compared to an office environment, because especially where I work, we have separation between sort of the working area. We don't bring food in, but we've got huge pantry spaces where people can have food and all of that, and you can mix and play at the same time. But at home, it's completely different. Some people are working off their dining tables, and for that reason, they have easy access to food. Right now, you got to watch out for those things. Those are different from a normal environment. So I can go on, but those are the only three things I see. So I do appreciate what the pandemic bring as well, because my family members are a lot closer. So
I think thanks. Interesting perspective. Looking at all the questions, I can realize also that I think there's an underlying frustration, because work has become so overwhelming, all consuming. And actually, somebody was saying that it's not work from home. You're actually living in between work. It's like, even though you're in your home environment, you're snatching moments to live right in between work. It has become so encompassing. So it's a challenge for everyone. But I'm going to get to questions now from the audience. And Paul, I'm going to go with you first. And this is from I won't name the name because they may be in the chat or they may not be. And I guess the awareness of mental health is, this person is saying, it seems to be still poor. And it's still taboo also, which is kind of interesting. I would disagree with that, but I'm wrong maybe. Of course, what can we do to increase the awareness of mental health among Malaysians?
We have to take a vertical approach to this. We've got to look at it from the grassroots, where the necessity for applied stuff is important and being called for. And of course, policy changes. Now, we've been talking about policy changes for donkey's years. And it comes up with furor and with intensity whenever there's an election. Everyone jumps on the mental health bandwagon and says, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I'm fed up with policy and policymakers. I'm going to leave I've left it up to the lobbyists and politics for a long time ago.
Okay,
if it's going to unfold, let it unfold. I'm not comfortable on that stage. What's important to me is the grassroots levels and what's happening there. So I'm calling for all practitioners, I'm calling for educators, I'm calling for anyone sensitive enough to understand what applied psychology is all about and learn it. Now, the fact that it is taboo, Karam, you're right, it's not as taboo as it was. It was terrible. A lot of people are willing to talk about it more, just like sexuality, gender-based issues. They're talking a lot more about politically sensitive issues. People are learning to express themselves. What's important to talk about is to realize that, this phrase, it's okay not to be okay. It's important for people to realize that putting up a front of being all right, okay, mentally sound, it's not necessary. It's far more important for you to realize at what frequency you're working at what functionality you're at. And when you need help, to reach out and ask. Now, that is always more promising than someone who's hiding behind a facade of, I'm okay, all is good, I'm cool, I've got a great toolkit. So the way to overcome this taboo or this lack of awareness among Malaysians is places like this. This kind of platforms are really, really good. I just want to quickly add something that Joan said. She said, what's important is the now. So I wanted to give Malaysiakini a pat on the back, say, Malaysiakini, the here and now. You get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, going back to the issue of how do we spread this knowledge about psychology, the need for help, mental issues? It's talking about it and listening, keeping an open mind. And it only starts with 1 or 2 or 3 people, There's an exponential effect where you just spread the word and people start talking about it, it'll happen. Integrate it into everything you do. Vertical. So it's not just going to be in the health system, it's got to be in the education system, it's got to be in the sports system, it's got to be everywhere. And now they've started this new TV education, Didik TV. They should have that there too, because the young are actually watching TV. But the problem is they talk about mental health being such a priority in the country, but there's no real effort to prioritize this. And I don't see that in action. So I'm calling out to all Malaysians, help put this on the map and make it work. It starts with you and I. That's it.
Okay. Wow. You must be super frustrated because I know I'm glad you didn't go into the policy part, because that's just not moving at all, and it's absolutely incredible. Yeah. So, but also because there's not enough public pressure and ecosystem leaders, right, push to get this done. So leave it to guys like you to try to break that conundrum lah. But let me just move on to Joan now. So Joan, I've got a question from you, and this is an easy one for you lah. You're living this, right? A startup founder asked actually, how do you deal with burnout, right? Being a startup founder also. So you're eminently qualified to answer that.
Okay, I'll take this one for the team, since I think I'm the only startup founder on the panel. I'm not sure if the person who asked this question is in the audience today, but thank you so much for asking that, because I think it's, firstly, number one, very courageous, because as founders, there is tremendous pressure to always be at your best. Anyone asks you, you could be running on 4 hours of sleep. How's everything? Good. Business very good. You can't say anything else. So there's always a lot of pressure, and so thank you for bringing this topic up. In the audience, if you have any other questions that are related to it, feel free to drop it into the comments. We will try our best to get to it. So I think it's unique in the sense for founders because number one, the boundaries start blurring. And what I mean by the boundaries start blurring is not just the physical boundaries of the fact that there are no more weekends. It could be a Monday, it could be a Sunday, you're probably still working. It's truly all encompassing. But also psychologically, the boundaries start blurring because founders tend to start embodying their company and what they're building. And so their, self-image, self-worth is so much tied to what they're building.
Okay.
Which is something that is probably not characteristic if let's say you had a job, right, at a different firm. You're not going to completely embody it, and when someone when anything happens, it's not going to hit you the same way. So I think that's how the boundaries blur. So it is hard, and that's actually why 70% of startup founders actually do experience some form of mental health challenge at some point in their lives. 70%. To put that into high context, in Malaysia, the statistic is 1 in 3. So that's about 33%, right? So you talk about the
so that means we're definitely under stress in Malaysia. They're not good, man. We're going to push up their stress levels, right?
Depends on what your benchmark is. Start from benchmark of 0.
Yeah, 1 in 3. There are 4 of us here.
So I think in the startup, ecosystem is definitely very prevalent. One of the reasons was the blurred boundaries. The other one as well is the kind of characteristics and personality that actually motivate someone or lead someone to becoming a founder in the first place. I think one of it is, they're big dreamers and visionaries, right? They see an opportunity, they want something to change, they go for it, and they take that risk. And there's a bit of that idealist in them, that optimist in them, that is driving them, right?
Okay.
And the other characteristic as well, I think, is the intense drive to achieve a mission. Steve Jobs said before, right? Those who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones that do. And so really that intensity is there for a lot of founders. And so this becomes a double-edged sword because it can drive you to success, but it also drives you to burnout. If you don't know where the stops are, right? If you don't know where the signs are. And so I think to really mitigate or at least help alleviate some of these issues, I think one is, creating physical boundaries, having control over that calendar and actually diarizing rest, for example. Otherwise, there's no motivation to take rest, right? You always want to work. I think those are physical boundaries that can be done. The other one as well is to also have those psychological boundaries, right? Remembering that we are not just our company, we're also humans who are multifaceted. We have our families, we are our own identity. If people can work in 4 or 5 different companies in their career, it's the same for a founder, right? And so I think that's something that that psychologically founders need to also kind of remember. And of course, lastly, surround yourself with good people, and never be afraid to have that thoughtful chat, because like what Paul said, right? It's all about talking about it, opening up, because if 70% of founders are burning out, that means there are more of us than there are less of us. So we just have to raise our hand.
And they're not at peak performance. It affects your performance then, right? When you don't realize that, and you try to, you think you got to work through the pain. So
absolutely. So
all right.
yeah.
So I sorry, there is another question for you, but I'll get to Eric first. And so Eric, Eric, I think your app is amazing, because I think your app has been around for 4 years. 2018, am I right or wrong? Was it introduced to the market 2018?
2019 actually.
Oh, 19. Okay, seems longer, but maybe because I see your billboards all over the place. But anyway, you've got hundreds of thousands of users, and you mentioned AI, right? So AI is learning. So the more people interact with the app, the more you're learning, and it will flag out for you certain key things. There's suddenly a spike in this or that, and you can see in real time what's happening also, and you can respond to that. So it's very interesting actually. It's almost like a live test bed for you all to find out how your users are interacting with this product, and their fears or their concerns are all being displayed right there. So but the question I have for you is that look, and the CEO is asking this, beyond just creating another app or a website, how can technology really aid in destigmatizing mental health and to bring awareness? So it's a bit of a shades of the question that maybe Paul was asked, but how do you think technology can destigmatize mental health and bring awareness to it?
Yeah, I think my own sense is correct, right? I think first and foremost, the awareness for mental health is rising, and that's the good news, right?
Okay.
However, there's still much more to learn about it, and how do you develop scale, right? And I think technology is the one that helps us with the scale. Because to me, you could get information even without technology, but what we're talking about here is how do we bring it out to people as quick as possible? How can we get people on the same page very quickly to address a particular pain point, as you were saying, right? And I think that's where technology helps. So as I was saying earlier, I mean, you could do health checks with a physical doctor. In fact, one of the functionality of the health app is that you could dial a doctor through audio or video. You can actually see a doctor from your own home, right? And why do we power that? Is because during the pandemic, you don't really want to go out. You avoid trying to go out, right, as much as possible. Now, so basically what we're trying to do then is to have people, still connect to a doctor, but from their own home. Therefore, safer. Therefore, giving them that peace of mind, which is very important during the pandemic. And that's what we are trying to achieve. And I think technology helps us do that. Now, can you imagine just about 10 years ago, you and I would never be talking about connecting with a doctor. I just have this experience earlier on because I did, a corporate town hall. So town hall, for some of you who maybe don't know, is just really the engagement with your staff. You could use technology to kind of do that. And I was talking about how do I know if someone is mentally okay. So you could do a number of games that could get people to participate. You could look at reaction. You could do quizzes. You look at participation rate. You can also kind of look at individual staff participation. Those are all enabled by technology, right? Kahoot being a tool, not promoting them, but just saying that you could use that to kind of help with engagement. So actually, I think the possibilities are endless, and we need to now start thinking, and a lot of us now need to start realizing that this is for real. The change, Joan was talking about 180-degree turn. The change is quite real. Do we really think after we've got the vaccination, we would do things like we did in 2018?
I hope so, man.
Yeah, well, personally, I don't think so. I think I mean, you okay, just a simple example, right? I used to live in Hong Kong, I was saying earlier. After SARS, you will see a lot of Hong Kongers actually
Still wearing masks.
Exactly, Joan. Exactly. Now, Malaysia,
Yes.
we don't have that habit.
Not yet.
My own prediction is that after the pandemic, assuming all of us have gotten the vaccination or the vaccine, we will still practice wearing masks, perhaps social distancing, right? Now, what impact does that have on the way we deliver services to customers? So if I talk about my business, if someone wants to visit our branch physically, you're not going to do things the way you've done them before. We need to provide spaces that allow people to feel secure because they feel that being distanced from another customer, for example. Yeah. So those are the things that are actually coming true. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, Karam, if you don't mind, maybe for the purposes of, in the spirit of also sharing the knowledge of mental health awareness and all of that, perhaps just some baseline for the audience. So in terms of mental health care professionals, there are 3 different types because this triggered you know, like a thought, because you know Pulse obviously has the telemedicine part where you can talk to doctors, right?
Which I didn't know, so good to know now.
So for mental health professionals, there are 3 types mainly, and Paul, feel free to jump in. Counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. Out of the 3, only psychiatrists are actually medical doctors, whose main tool will be in the form of medication for, you know, symptom management and things like that. When it comes to things like talk therapy, counseling, you know, to have someone to speak to about your problems. Counselors and psychologists are usually the people that you go to. Now, even among psychologists, there are many different types, but the ones that actually deal with, you know, the degrees of mental health would be clinical psychologists. So you got sports psychologists, you got health psychologists, you know, all of that. But it's clinical psychologists who are the ones who, you know, have that under purview. So for example, so for example, for Thoughtful Chat, most of our mental health professionals focus on talk therapy. So that's why they are counselors and psychologists. So those are the resources, I guess, that you know, people
that
should
is
know
available. Okay. I mean,
Thank
both
you,
of you run
Good
apps,
point,
right?
good point.
Both Prudential and yours, right? Are app based. Your service now,
Absolutely.
of course, Prudential no, but the app component is much more. For you, it's all or nothing, right? For Prudential, that was one of their value added components, which has become like a key component now, even more valuable now moving forward. So they had the foresight to launch it years ago.
So
exactly.
Yeah,
it helps people. But I think there's so since Joan, you're there, I'm going to just Eric, are you okay? Did you want to conclude anything before I go to another question for Joan? Eric, did you?
Yeah. No. I think it's feel free to jump in. Yeah. So I made my point.
Fine.
Yeah. But please go ahead.
All right. So John, and this is a question because it's from the CFO of a listed company, right? The Chief Financial Officer, and this person is asking that, look, aren't we adding to mental stress for staff from overuse of technology? Because already being used so much, right? And probably looking at the title of our session also, right? Physical and mental health through technology. So I think it's a she. So she's asking, aren't we, adding to the mental stress? So Joan, you wanted to take this on. What's your counter to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much a counter, but I thank you so much for bringing that up, because I think one thing's for sure is that technology is a very big part of our lives now. I think most people will probably forget their car keys easier than forgetting their phone, because their phone is stuck to their hand. and so you are absolutely right in bringing this up and you know, raising that concern that tech actually can also cause a lot of stress, especially when it's the place where we work. Now, you know, back-to-back calls, Zoom fatigue is real. Please, guys, buffer in some time in between your Zoom calls to prevent that. And then I think coming back to the question, it's about looking at it internally versus externally, right? So I think Google had the foresight of doing this as well. So we partnered with Google a couple of years ago. This was before the pandemic.
Of course,
to run a digital well-being program.
Interesting. Okay.
That was launched across Southeast Asia. And so really, you know, I mean, the fact that Google is doing it they're as tech as you can get. So I think that there was quite some foresight there. And really the topics that we discuss, which I think are so applicable today as well, is about really understanding, again, coming back to boundaries, the external and the internal type of boundaries. And so when is tech going to cause us stress rather than bring us joy? Because on the one hand, we watch Netflix and we come away being very happy.
We don't complain.
Because it was a form of entertainment. But if you had 3 hours long of a call with, your boss, then it becomes a source of stress rather than a source of joy. So it's, again, it's two sides to the coin. And so I think, again, the external boundaries is knowing how to optimize that balance between when your technology is a source of stress and a source of joy. I do my meditations, for example, on my app. So I also speak to my, mental health coach on ThoughtFull Chat. Of course, I have to use my own, own product. True. So it's also that is not the source of stress, right? But at the same time, it could be. And so I think setting the external boundaries will be important. Everything from just to give some practical tips, right? I do not bring my phone into the bedroom. It's outside. And so, when it's time for bed, it's time for bed, for example. Putting things, if you're using Android or you're using Apple, there are a lot of tools within the phone itself. I would encourage everyone to explore it for setting timers where you can actually block off certain apps at certain times. And shutting down your phone at certain times. All of this should be practiced. The one that's a bit more interesting is actually the internal boundaries of what online to offline can really do. Because, for example, if you think about it, a lot of times the triggers are what we see online. You see there's confusion around what the SOPs are. Oh, everybody very confused. Right? The emotion and the reaction actually happens offline. It's not online, it happens offline. You're just being triggered by it. And so when those lines are blurred, again, having the mental exercises and the mental tools and awareness to know when you are being triggered by things you see online and when you are taking it over out to your offline world and having mechanisms to cope with that. That is what actual mental health coaching is. Building those muscles. Yeah.
That's really hard to do, man. There's some self-awareness required there. So, Paul, what do you think there? And by the way, if all of y'all have a question from the audience you want to take, right, please answer. There are so many questions there. And I'll leave it to y'all. I think we'll probably have time for each of you to take one more question. I know we started a few minutes late, so we're going to go a bit over the 1 hour point. Paul?
No, I just want to comment on something. The statistics of 1 in 3 that Joan mentioned.
Okay.
It's been branded about 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 2 in 5 kind of stuff. But let me remind you all that there's a sample whenever we use stats. And we use a representative sample like a few thousand people for a 20 million population. Now, one of the issues that I can talk about from my backyard here in Malaysia is that the stats that we talk about are stats from the Malaysian government clinics, government hospitals, and everyone registered with the government. There's so many hundred psychologists, counselors, and psychiatrists in private practice, and we do not send our stats in. My stats, over the 30 years, I've not sent in even one single stat on the depression, suicide, anxiety, my disorders, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And I've had hundreds of suicides, successful and attempted. Now, the statistic is not 1 in 3. First of all, I must add that I'm part of the stats, meaning I think mental health issues, as they classify it under, is the same for everybody. Everybody has a mental health issue. Whether it causes disability and dysfunctionality is something else. Whether it is pathological and needs treatment is something else. But I think don't go by the stats. We all have problems. No one is, we are all, put it this way, we all have normal, some are more so. But the fact is that forget the stats. It's a reality that people have problems and we have to face that. So it's not like I'm 1 in 3, I'm not in the statistic. No. Don't rely on stats. The other thing is, another thing that Joan mentioned, which I want to add on to, is that when does technology become a bad thing or a burden? Well, put it this way, too much of anything is a bad thing. Too much of even a good thing is a bad thing. I mean, if you cross the boundaries of functionality and optimal using, then it's going to be bad. Too much of a family is also sometimes can be very detrimental.
We get on each other's nerves.
You got to balance everything out. Even too much Netflix is bad for you. But it's about the whole issue that I'm working at is a balance of emotional regulation, lifestyle balance, work-life balance, joy, happiness. This whole seesaw effect of life is we're all there. It's about maintaining that. Okay. So I mean, let's give the audience some time. Yeah.
No, but Eric, you're in a large corporate entity. Do you feel that you guys have done a better job of helping create this balance for your team out there? I guarantee if I ask anyone in Prudential who are working from home, they'll all say they're working harder than before, and they don't understand how this has happened, right? Do you feel that you all have done a better job, and does that learning then become like a new feature you can add to the app, or there's a disconnect? I'm wondering.
Yeah, Karam, I'm not sure about doing a better job. I just want to be very honest. I think
fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So one of the things personally I have been talking a lot to my team members is learning to say no. Actually, all of us working from home, you do have a lot more invitations for meetings. For some reason, people felt that you're more disposed and
correct.
Yeah. So 1 p.m. meeting shouldn't be a problem for you. Where would you be otherwise anyway, right? Or 7 p.m.
God, so true.
You're only having dinner. So what's the problem if we have a meeting? I'm dramatizing it a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're having to do is to say no, and I took it upon myself to lead the charge, right? And say to my team members, it's not okay to get an invitation for 1 p.m., but that's kind of like lunchtime, right?
Yeah.
It's not okay to get an invitation for 8 p.m. We certainly have our share of, can we do Saturday 2 p.m.? Can we do Saturday 9 p.m.? And it's not easy, but we all need to help each other. Because in a corporate environment, and I want to refer to what Joan said as well earlier about founder and the boundary, it looks like people in the corporate world like myself, the boundary is also getting kind of blurred at the moment, right? Because each of us are encouraged to be entrepreneurs in the organization, be innovative, challenge the status quo, be courageous in our approach. And therefore, the need for us to do that is also very apparent, right? We need to take care of ourselves. Are we getting enough sleep, for example? How can you perform well in your job if you don't even get enough sleep? Very simple stuff. So actually, I think the approach we're taking for PALS is really starting with bite-sized content, things that we can do easily, right? Our thoughts are not jump to phase 3 when people are not ready with even phase 1, right? Simple stuff.
Phase 1, yeah.
Can you assure yourself that you're getting enough sleep? What Joan talked about, do you leave your phone away from you sometimes? It's not very healthy. And thank goodness people are thinking about this. So one of the main features of, for example, Microsoft is screen time. I thought that was really, really good, right? Because it helps me track my screen time. And sometimes I get really surprised that I've been spending more time on the screen. That could be work, or could be, just watching YouTube, which a lot of us do anyway. So
all our phones have it too,
Yeah. So we need to be just aware. So I guess the role for us is about being aware, alertness, and we start small, and that's how I would look at that. So no, I think we are doing our bits, but I would not say we're doing a very good job. We're starting. But the first step is really about addressing this. So we're allowing staff to come back to say, what is it that they find frustrating during this time in the work context. Learn about that. We certainly have our fair share of engagement survey that we incorporated questions around working during the pandemic.
Okay.
I'll just leave it there, Karam.
Okay, no, that's nice. That's great for you to be honest and not to pretend that you've got, Prudential has got it all worked out and all wonderful. Thanks for that. I think it's very important that, because there was a CEO who asked the question also, right? How how can, and I'm going to end with that because then I think Prem wants to jump in and do concluding remark, is that how can he help the people around him, right? And it seemed to me like a cry for help. So, and I think you all would have seen the question. I'll start with you, Paul, but can each of you maybe give him or people like that who have the same question, give him one piece of advice how he can at least move from where he is now to at least move 1 or 2 steps ahead where he feels or she feels they're able to help their people more. So what advice would you give to this CEO? And then I'll go to you, Joan, and then Eric for the final comment on this.
Okay, my very quick comment is like using the GPS. Before you use a GPS, you need to punch in your location. Using that metaphor, if you want to move forward in anything, my metaphor is know where you are right now. Understand where you are. Your self-awareness in terms of mental health is important. So avail of anything you can to increase your self-awareness, your level of education about mental health, your health, and mental health in general. So location, where are you now? Self-assess, see a professional, have a really good time doing that. So that's my opinion.
So the CEO may say that, shoot, I don't know anything at all. So he or she needs to probably educate themselves a bit, right? There are apps there, or go and read articles, or watch recordings of discussions like this. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Joan?
So one of the biggest things that we've been doing a lot of this year, and actually even the past year with corporates, is actually equipping people managers, especially with psychological first aid.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because this is something that is extremely important, right? I think that the people who are closest to the ground in an organization are basically the people managers. You have your weekly huddles, your daily huddles. You actually have the first interaction with all the employees.
Okay.
And usually, if something is amiss, it will start showing up or reflecting in either performance at work, or even showing up for work, or if they are there, maybe they are not, as engaged as they used to be. Those are all the signs and symptoms that are actually the easiest to pick up for those around them. And so I think equipping not just yourself, but also the people who are taking care of other people with psychological first aid is very important. Just the 3 L's for those who are on the call: learn how to look, learn how to listen, and learn how to link them to the right resources. So just the 3 L's of look, listen, and link. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Nice. Eric, your final thoughts on this, and then Prem will jump in.
Sure. I think for me, I just want to leave this thought behind. Be human first before you be an employee or be a boss, right? What do I mean by that is spend time separating objectives, KPIs, which are familiar terms in a corporate setting, and kind of leave that aside and be human. Start to demonstrate care, right? How are you doing? Today's 1 hour session is not talking about KPI, but it's really talking about you, right? Start there. And I'm learning that as well, right? I mean, I'm also guilty of that, being in a corporate environment, but I almost have to stop myself, and I'm learning together. It's not that I'm doing this very well, but I almost have to stop myself and say, this 1 hour session, can I just dedicate that to just talking about how people are coping with the current environment, right? Have a chat. And to me, it's very fulfilling that you would spend time doing that. And that would be the only thought that I want to leave behind to the person who asked the question. But I also want to acknowledge the person for asking that question. It's quite real. I do fit to in my environment, actually. So it's for all of us. It's not isolated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
and it's not just in a workplace, it's also the friends and family around you who are going through challenging circumstances.
Yep. So nice. I think Malaysiakini has just put some mental health references there. And before that, I want to thank Wan Yue Gong. I think he has shared a link for a Coursera course. It says, psychological first aid. So cool. You've triggered somebody to share something also. Thanks, Joan. Okay, then with that, I think it's unfortunate we've got to wrap this up. I feel that there's a lot more we can talk about, but we got to respect boundaries also, right? And people got other things to do. So, Prem, if you want to jump in and add your concluding remarks.
Thanks so much for our panelists, Eric, Joan, and Paul. and of course our moderator, Karamjit. Thanks so much. I think it was a very interesting discussion. Definitely as a CEO, this is something that's come up, a lot more in our companies and how we manage our staff and how do we use technology to address some of these issues. I think there's some great apps being shown out there, and I'm sure there are other services available. I think that we need to get the message out around mental health, and I think Malaysiakini will definitely play its part. And
Very
hopefully,
good.
As we create this agenda out there, we can all have better health, more healthy places and have a better mental health environment. So again, thank you so much. Thank you for our audience for joining us. Thank you to our partners, DNA, Malaysiakini, of course, Kini Events, Scale Up Malaysia, and everybody else who has joined us today. And see you back again for the next episode of Top in Tech. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay well, everyone.
And keep those boundaries. Learn boundaries. In this era of disruption, digital is a reality of our life. You got to read more.
I'm looking at community, enterprise, and government agencies are getting involved in IoT and big data for the well-being of the people.
This COVID-19 actually make us start to realize that most important thing, the company have to be very resilient. So at any time, the disruption should not happen.
The telehealth services for them to be connected, for the patient to be connected to doctors, Owen Kementerian Kesihatan, for the doctors to then consult and offer a referral for the patient to perform a test if required.
If you're talking about trust, I think one of the key here would be how did you treat your people before MCO happened? So if you had that level of trust already with your team members, then it's easier for you to say, okay, now that I can't see you on a daily basis, how do we then operate?
These are the actual challenges of adopting cloud. It's not about the trust anymore. It's about our infrastructure, our connectivity. Are they stable and fast enough to support the business and also the consumers to continue to adopt more cloud services?
Talented individuals with in-demand skill in any sector now realize that they can live, they choose and work where they're qualified. And talent is the new global currency.
It's not the government that should write the syllabus. They should really hand it out to the industry to write the syllabus, make sure that the practical education, 75% is done in the workshop, only 25 theory, 25% needs to be done in school.